Hello and welcome to the first Sentient Mind AI news update.
Hello.
Hi Jack, how you doing?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Today I'm just going to cover, just cover two bits of news, but huge news like this week coming out of Tesla and Nvidia. Rather than cover too much, there's just so much news just in that stuff alone that we thought we'd, that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to jump straight into it, Jack. No messing
Yeah.
about, no idle chit chat. There's so much to get through.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because I don't know. I've not really kept up to date with the Tesla news. You've just mentioned to me that there's some groundbreaking stuff going on, so my reactions are going to be as raw as you like.
No, it's cool. It's not even like official news, right? So Elon did a podcast, like half an hour podcast to 25 CMOs that's just gone onto YouTube. But the stuff he was just talking about was just like
So
mind
what
blowing.
what is a CMO? Sorry, Mark.
So chief marketing officers.
Chief
So like,
Marketing Officer.
CTOs, technical,
Yep,
CEO, CMOs.
brilliant.
So he talked about, like, they asked him like rapid fire because I think they had half an hour of his time, like officially. So the guy was like jumping on almost a bit too quick. Like he'd answer a question and be like, it's fucking amazing, and then and he'd jump onto the next question like it was nothing. But because of that,
Yeah.
he was just like, I knew he only had a certain amount of time. But this is good because they covered like a lot, right?
I mean,
Like,
how much, if you tried to place a value on someone like Elon Musk's time, it's probably an astounding number.
yeah, I mean, I did a good job like getting him right. So like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So what kind of companies were the CMOs from? Was it just CMOs from all kinds of companies,
I think
tech?
they said like leading tech, like quite big companies, big
Yeah,
organizations.
yeah,
But they didn't
cool.
state who they were. So let me hit you some stuff then. So
All right, I'm ready.
first one, Neuralink. Okay, do you
Mm.
familiar with Neuralink?
Give me a 2-sentence summary.
So Neuralink is like brain implants to help people do things that are currently unable to do. So that's from anything from helping people that are got neurological problems, right? So they can't see or
Yep.
things like that, right through to like, how do we just make humans even better than they already are, like the human brain better than they already are. So it's
So it's
a
like a
bunch of stuff there.
mini brain upgrade.
Not a mini brain upgrade, massive brain
Massive brain
upgrade.
upgrade.
Okay.
Massive in potential, mini in size.
Yeah. So it's like a chip they
Yeah.
insert. So they've already got 3 humans that have this chip inserted, right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
what it works for them is that effectively it's for people that are paralyzed,
Yep.
but it allows them to use a computer or a phone so they can connect to digital devices. And all they have to do is, if they want to move the mouse, I say all they have to do, but if they want to see the mouse move across the screen, go somewhere, they imagine their hand moving and it makes the mouse move, and they can use their computer and they can use their the like phone and things like that. So it connects you to digital devices.
So it's not like if you're paralyzed, it doesn't suddenly allow you to have the ability to move your limbs again.
Oh
It's
wait, oh wait,
okay.
that's just jumping ahead, mate. Like the
Sorry,
yes,
okay. Stealing your
no, no,
thunder.
no, 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 not at all, not at all. So right now, that's what they're using it for, right?
So like
So
a mind to computer connection. So I can, like, right now, without using my hands, I can visualize opening up Spotify and playing some music.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I can do that using my Neuralink.
yeah, without like touching anything. Yeah.
Got it.
So second use case, and they've already got this working in monkeys, but they're so this year they plan to I think it's 20 to 30 devices. They've got 3 already installed, 20 to 30 devices, but then it's going to like scale up like massively the following year, right?
Okay.
So the second use case, and they're planning to do this year, is like to like restore sight in the blind for particularly blind people, right? So they've got it working in monkeys already.
This is
So
a joke.
it literally bypasses the issue and like allows them to kind of see again. So
So this is like, I mean, this is what people would describe as an act of God, a miracle.
mhm. uh, it even works for people like who've never had vision. Like not even like, oh, they had vision, they lost it. It's like people never had vision can give them vision.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Right. So that's the second use case, and that's
And
shit. That's just,
that's
they're all
proven.
they've done
That's
it in
proven in
monkeys.
monkeys. They've
Yeah.
done it in monkeys and
Yeah.
humans.
Not yet, but like that's the plan. Like this year. So
Wow.
if it works in monkeys, I suspect it's going to work in humans. Right. It's like it's not. It seems likely.
That's insane. That is insane. I mean, that is insane.
It gets more insane, mate. So, like next aspiration is like bridging spinal cord injuries so that people can walk again. So people have had like a severed spinal cord, just bypass where it's been severed, basically, make a new connection, and allow them to walk again. So that's like they've not proven that yet as a thing, but they're like, from our research, like that should be possible. And
Wow.
that's like the next. That's the third use case they're working on as like a next
Wow.
thing.
Okay. And is this so? Just so I'm clear, we're still talking about a singular like chip implant, I guess, into your
Mm-hmm.
brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it makes sense with sight. I mean, you can kind of imagine how the brain links to the eyes and that chip's up there. But with the spinal cord bypass, it's
Mm-hmm.
not like we're going to be putting a chip in their spine or something in their spine. It is literally all done by this one chip
Mm-hmm.
being put in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that's the case. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Actually, maybe there is some sort of I don't know. I don't know is the answer. Like in truth, but that's
Mhm.
the impression I got. But maybe there is something else that needs to go into.
And that's so this is on the roadmap. I mean, if they put a target on when they think they can get that proven in I guess monkeys to start with.
I no, they didn't say, but like I think that's like the following use case. I mean, I think this is coming, right? This is like stuff they're working on.
Wow.
So
And why is this? How has this come out in the with the discussion with the CMOs?
I
Why?
think they've been talking about it, right? I think this is not like I don't know that it's brand new news. I've certainly heard
Mhm.
similar things talked about in terms of with Neuralink in the past, but more, I guess all of the stuff he spoke about is like shit. This stuff is like here, it's coming, like it's
Yeah.
like right now. Whereas before, it's like a little bit like it's going to happen at some. This is our plans. It's going to happen at some point. More ethereal,
Mhm.
but actually now it feels like all the stuff he was talking about so real. Right, ready for the next bit on Neuralink. Last bit on Neuralink, and
Oh
then we'll
my
move on
god,
to
we're
the
not
next
done.
topic.
We're not done.
Right, no. So this is about like increasing kind of bandwidth of the brain, right? And so humans can only communicate at a certain speed because of speech, right?
Yeah.
So I think he called it like 1 bit per second is like pretty much like the max that a human can do, but they never
1
get
bit
that
per
capacity.
second.
Yeah, in terms of like number of bits that you can kind of like in terms of computer terms. A
Mhm.
number a bit per second is like
Well, that's
the
what a human
extent of
brain
the
can
bandwidth.
process.
Yeah, so it's communicating thoughts, right? So
Okay.
if I have thoughts and I need to communicate them to you, I've got to like speak or write
Yep.
them down, right? And
Mhm.
like that's like a bottleneck. So
Yeah,
he
that
was
makes
talking
sense.
about implanting this chip. So I don't know how exactly this works. It's going to be me, you talking to you like through thoughts or whatever. But basically, he's talking about making you that 100 times faster, 1,000 times faster, maybe like 1,000,000 times faster. Yeah.
What?
So
I mean,
like it's just basically just effectively like making you superhuman. So you can like communicate like insanely fast. Like because the moment I think of something, it's with you. Right.
I mean, how does that? I mean, is the bottleneck truly the ability to communicate, or is the bottleneck the ability to think? Because we've all had it, right? Like you say, you see something, or you're in that like weird like state where you're having a million thoughts all at once, right? I mean, you say that you're not really having a million thoughts. Maybe you have like 3 or 4 all going around in your head at the same time. You think
Mm.
about what am I doing for dinner? What am I going to do at the gym later? What time am I going to get to bed today, and what am I doing tomorrow? Maybe all those thoughts are going around in your head at the same time, right? But there is definitely a cap to the amount of thoughts that I can have at any one time. And then there's the ability to communicate those thoughts with somebody. And like, I guess I can understand that there's a limit to how fast I can communicate my thoughts. And that is literally the bottleneck is the ability for me to right now, I guess, verbalize. I would assume that verbal speech is the quickest form of communication, as opposed to like, I don't know, a dance. But the bottleneck is my ability to transform my thoughts into speech, and that's what we're talking about here, right? Is that bottleneck?
Yeah, it is. And it's hard to even imagine how that manifests itself. Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, if I say to you, if I come to you, like sometimes I do, and I say, Jack, I've got this amazing idea, right? And then I spend the next 10 minutes talking about it and describing it. What if Jack, I've got this amazing idea, boom, you've got it.
I see. So that is a really good point, right? So I guess the example I gave is very in the moment. I haven't necessarily like it's quite trivial stuff, like what am I having for dinner, what time am I going to bed? Like it's this is the question, this is the response. I'm having, pie and mash. I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. Like they're quite that trivial thoughts. What you're talking about is bigger, more ethereal things, which perhaps to actually communicate exactly, for me to truly understand how you're thinking, there's a whole heap of context you have to give me. There's a number of different angles that we have to cover off. There's a number of questions that, for me to truly understand it, we have to go through. So like maybe it's a business idea. So there's 100 questions that I'd need to ask you to truly comprehend what you're thinking in your head, because you already have the answers to all those questions, right? In your head, because you've had this business idea. But for you to communicate it fully with me, I'm going to have to go through each of those questions. And then I've truly understood and you've truly communicated that. And that might take an hour, 2 hours, days. And what you're talking about is
That's
the
a really good
ability
example.
to land that in
what if there's a business,
1,000 times faster.
Yeah, but what if, exactly. Like, what if I'm like, that's a really good example. Say we want to have a meeting about putting together a business plan. I go, okay, well, the start of the business plan is we've got like decide what like the maximum market available is for us to like market to. Like, I'm saying that like now, and it takes me like loads of words. But then like I've said that and I've transferred it to you in a millisecond, and you've gone, yeah, that's like the full addressable market. That's what I was trying to plan. And you're like, bam, and then like, okay, next point. But like instead of like using words, it's just like I'm passing you my thoughts straight away, like in a second, like straight back.
So this is bonkers. So, but is it not? Is it inherently not that there's some kind of limit to my ability to comprehend? So there's the ability for you to think. Yeah, there's the ability for you to think it and for you to formalize a thought, right? And let's go for let's take the business idea example, because that's quite good, right? So you've over time thought up this business idea example. We've now got this technology which allows you, in theory, to instantly or almost instantly transfer all of that thought and understanding into my head, right? But in the previous version of the world, I have, after each question, I have the ability to mentally build up my understanding of your image, right? So I'm building each building block, and I guess what I'm talking about is my ability to process what you're saying. So, if we talk about it in data terms, you're building up this file with information in it about this company, about this business idea. Instead of us having to there's an upload speed, right? But this is communication, upload and download. You're uploading it into my brain or whatever. We're now saying, instead of it being, one line of text per second, we're now going to be able to instantly dump that 10-page document into my head. But I've now got to be able to read that document, right? And previously we were going through it line by line, because I was saying, okay, well, what market are you talking about? Oh, we're talking about this market. Okay, well, what technology, and we can go through it and I can process that. And they kind of all align, right? You've thought it up. We download it at 1 line of text per second, and I process at 1 line of text per second. So it's all fine. But now you've sped up the middle bit, the bit, from transferring into your head into my head. But I've still got to process it, right? It's still going to take me. So I guess the question is, what does it truly achieve if even, maybe I'm thinking about it too trivially, right? Like maybe, this technology allows me to also process it. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, what does it truly mean? Like, have we unlocked something here, or is it just, Does it just sound cooler than it is?
Well, you're going to find another bottleneck somewhere else, aren't you? It's like anything, like in software, you break one piece of
Yeah.
bottle, you get through one bottleneck, there's another one. It's going to be another bottleneck. But I guess you could think of it probably a bit like, the LLMs now. They have a little bit of thinking time, right, before they respond. So it's currently like that. I'm going to just dump you, like we do. You pay something into the LLM, like the box, and the LLM goes like thinking, spends 5-6 seconds thinking, and then boom, it's back. Maybe it's going to be something like that. Like you have that thinking time, but you can think at probably a faster rate, right? As well. But I don't know if you've maybe there is some like contemplating time, but I think I'm pretty sure he's talking about like communication being the bottleneck. So maybe it is. I dump an idea on you, you still spend a day to think about it. I'll sleep on it type scenario.
Yeah,
But
I mean, we kind of, it certainly makes my mind go into the realm of how, what is even going on in my head when I'm processing something. Like, what is that? Like, what is,
yeah.
you tell me a business idea, and then, I'm thinking about it, and I guess I make a judgment. I think of some questions, like what is going on? What is that process?
Yeah.
And how does that work when you get, a whole heap of information instantly? Like, what does that even mean? Do I'm likening my brain to a computer, and because that's the only way I can think about it right now. Like, I have to go through and process it. But what if that isn't how it works? What, because we're talking about, have we even ever seen that? Is there a version of this that currently exists where you can give someone shit tons of information in an instant? Or is it such that all of the things that exist right now, movies, videos, text on a page, pictures, like, there's only so much information that the brain can input, and that's the communication thing that you're talking about. Like, the communication is the bottleneck. So does anyone know the answer of what happens when you get all of that information into the human brain in a second? Like, what happens? How does my brain respond?
Yeah. I think we need Elon to answer that, but like there's
I style
it's
him in.
just incredible. Yeah. So, but I mean, maybe I can do some bit more research and find out what that is. But essentially, that's it. We've only covered 1 out of 4 topics on Tesla.
Oh my god. Yeah,
So,
sorry.
I'm keen to move on. We might have to do a different separate NVIDIA video instead. But this will be
Let's see how.
huge. But I almost actually meant to do Neuralink second. I wanted to do something else first, which I thought was like even better, but they're on par. Humanoid robots, right? Tesla's
Here we
Optimus
go.
robot, right?
Terminator, iRobot. Here we go. This is the good stuff.
So he's talking about like this is like how he's planning to roll it out. He's saying there's probably going to be like they're going to roll out like what is it, 500 1,000 to 1,000 or so, like this year. Most of them, they said they're probably going to use in the Tesla factories, like to give them like testing out. But then it's going to 10x, and then it's going to 10x. So next year, 50,000 to 100,000. He said they'll probably make, right? And then after that, he said about 500,000 robots the year after that. And he said like there's almost like nothing they're going to be able to do because they've created the hand now, which is like the big thing. 22 degrees of separation, 22 degrees of freedom. So it just completely mimics like human dexterity, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's like almost like nothing that these humanoids won't be able to do. And he's talking about like the size of the industry is just going to be huge because everyone's going to want one of these effectively. Like, who wouldn't want one? And then you think about how businesses and how many like they would want, like for manufacturing or for like whatever, right? And he said, so he's talking about like this. Who knows what that ratio is going to be? But ultimately, that could be like 3 to 1, like humanoids versus robots. 4 to 1, 5 to 1. Might be like he's talking about like billions of these humanoid robots.
Wow. I mean, this guy's got vision. Give him that. He's really, really got vision. So just to be clear, when we're talking about humanoids, we are literally talking about a robot. So it's made of metal, plastic, and whatever else. And it looks just like a human. So it's got a head, it's got arms, it's got legs, it's got hands. And the point is that we've the most recent development is that we have now got 22 degrees of separation, but
Yeah,
22 degrees of freedom in these humanoid hands. That's the level that we're at.
yeah.
And what does
I
that
think
mean? What is a degree of freedom?
I think it's just like it mimics the human hand, right?
Okay.
So it like in everywhere. And I think like there was one part which is like creating the hand. There's the other right. It's like how do I attach it to the forearm so
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
everything works as it should, like a human, right? And I think there's quite a lot of companies like creating humanoid robots. Like there's loads in China, right? And there's
Hmm.
loads in the US.
Hmm.
And but I think Tesla still has the edge because of like this humanoid, like this hand, right? So I think like in China they've got some that are like can get around faster and like do other things, but like ultimately, like who needs like a fast humanoid? Generally, it's like to do work. Like
Yeah.
what's going to be really key is like the stuff they can do with their hands.
And
Um,
this is really interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, separately right now, the big sort of hype is around AI agents, right? And that is, you know, they don't have there's no physical, AI agent. It's computer. It's in your computer, and we're talking about AI agents being able to do everything in the sort of the digital realm, right? So this humanoid technology is what allows us to connect that sort of AI technology into the physical world. And we're talking about all of the physical applications or anything that a human does that is physical right now. That's where a humanoid slots in rather than an AI agent. So that's the separation.
mhm. Yep. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
And
yeah, and you can think about it, even if you take a step back as an individual and you think about all the things in your life where you probably said, right, like this concept of robots has been around for a while. Like it's been in you've seen it in Hollywood for decades, this idea of robots being, living among humans. But if you take a step back for just a minute, you can probably list off 10, 15 different applications where, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could get a robot to do this? And that's just as a consumer, as an individual. And then you lift and shift that into the sort of the,
yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
And what does this mean? I mean, crikey, your mind goes off in 10 different directions. People are going to lose their jobs. How do you even manufacture these things? Are they a risk? And where does this go? This technology is here. This is what we're talking about, right? Like this, everybody's been saying, or people have been saying for years, oh, robots are going to take over the world. Robots will walk among us. Suddenly it's in sight. Like it is truly in sight when you've got someone like Musk.
Next couple of years. Next couple of years.
He's promised that 500,000 in the next few
Mm.
years will
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah. So next year, 50,000 to 50,000 to 100,000. The year after, 500,000.
I mean, has there ever been? Is there is there anything, from a news perspective? Has there ever been anything more
And that's only
significant?
Tesla. Like if the other companies sell some, like as well, like I think Tesla will be dominant because they have an advantage that like they're far ahead. Because the other thing is as well, it's like what's the AI that they're going to put into
Yeah,
like their head, right? And I mean, this is going to come on to like something I'll talk about later on, which is like xAI's like data center. Like in terms of like AI, like they've got Grok coming and they're going to catch up, right? Like you just know, like with Elon, he's catching up with like the AI stuff, and the size of the data center he's got is just like bigger than anyone else's already, right? And so it's going to be the AI that's in, and that's like this AI is just exponential at the moment. Like they're going to put AI, that AI is going to be in the humanoid, so
yeah,
he's going to be able to like do stuff. Like they're already like talking about like it being like more intelligent than a human, like
yeah, yeah,
and passing tests better than a human, and AIs can. Well, yeah, I've got some more stories on that like coming up, but like the AI combination with this humanoid, it's just going to be like everyone. Of course, everyone will want one, but I think the question that he raised, and I thought was really interesting, the way that he answered it for himself was, the question people then ask is like, these humanoids they're literally going to take over
yeah.
every job, right? So the thing is like, what do humans do at a point if
What
they
do they
do all
do?
the work?
Yeah, yeah,
And he said, I guess he goes, I guess it's going to be a bit like retirement, right? Like, but he says, because this is a question that troubles me a lot. But I was thinking, what? I think that's partly because like work is like kind of Elon's life. He can't imagine like not working. Like,
yeah.
I always go back to like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where like that little bit at the top is like all your needs are catered for. All your basic needs to food, like shelter, right up to I don't have to worry about money. Like
Yeah.
at the top is like now I'm just free to be as creative as I want, do whatever I want. He joked that like at least Neuralink will help us like keep up with the and maybe we'll be able to find things to do and keep up with the AI. But he was like he was stuck on like, oh, fuck, I don't know what we're gonna do. But
Yeah.
like, but I just think that just opens up a world of options and creativity, right, for humans. But again, can the AI do that better than
This
you?
is this is this is an incredible topic, right? Because I find certainly in my experience, whenever this is discussed, because suddenly, it's been talked about, what are we going to do? But suddenly it's a real genuine question that people are having to face. Governments, leaders, owners of companies, like everybody is, this question is something which they need to consider. And I don't know whether it's a human response to this because it's change, it's new, but generally speaking, and as I say, in my experience, the reaction to that as a thing is pessimism, and it's quite negative. And even I say it, right, like, oh, this it's the end of the world. That robots will take over, and that seems to be how every Hollywood movie goes, and maybe the media has got some responsibility in our pessimism. But is it not more what your response to this, right? This is it. This is amazing. This
Mhm.
is the single biggest technological leap in human history. And we're on the brink of it. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna happen in the next few years, in our lifetimes, absolutely. And what we're talking about is, we're unlocking the ability for everyone to have all their basic human needs: water, shelter, food,
Hmm.
warmth, all of the things that, billions, currently, have to work really, really hard for or don't have.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's, surely this is the single greatest thing that's ever happened.
I mean,
And how do we celebrate it? How do we, how do you respond? How do you make sure that, you're taking all this news, because it's crazy. It's the volume of, news that's coming in, that, processing it, as we say, like it's a lot. How do you make sure that you remain positive and you see the good in this, and not default to the, oh my god, robots taking over the world, this is the
I
end.
I am like always incredibly positive about this stuff, but I'm just like that's me naturally, right? I'm always I'm an optimist, I guess. But
Yeah.
like I mean, I honestly think, like I've spoke to you about this before. I think in the short term, it's a mess. Like
Yeah.
it's pain. There's going to be pain because the world is just not ready. Governments are not ready. Like no one's we often talk about like I'm walking around in the world and like nobody knows this stuff. Most of the world doesn't know this is coming.
Yeah.
Um, and it is. And it's going to be devastating, I think, because people are going to lose jobs. Like government are not going to be able to fund them. Like they were talking already about like 1 in 7 jobs already being lost to AI. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
insanity.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think in the short term, because like we can't get to that utopia, and I'm not saying there's going to be like, I'm not saying it's going to be instant like utopia or even ends up being utopia, right? But like I feel like it's going to be a better world, but like, oh my god, that transition isn't instant, isn't overnight. I hope it's quick as possible. So, but it's going to be pain in the short term. But I honestly quite positive about what that means for the future, because
Yeah.
some people want to work, some people like that's what they live for. Most people fucking hate work.
Yeah.
If you don't have to work, find something else to do. I mean, maybe they'll find being not have no imagination to go and do something else and be bored out their skull, and that's worse. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's I mean, this is it's certainly going to paint an interesting picture for the next few years, isn't it? I mean, there's, as you say, chaos is the word that comes into my mind when, as we if we think of this as a transition from the current state of the world to this world where there are humanoids, there's robots, AI is very much integrated into our society. that transition is going to be chaotic. It's going to be
Mhm.
really tricky for people. And I think it's great, talking to you, especially that you have this optimistic view of, ultimately this is a good thing. It will be beneficial for people. And that's what I think we have to hang on to that, right? But I guess it does pose the question of, well, what does it mean for the next, 5 years? How do people
Mhm.
prepare? What do you do? How do you ensure that you kind of don't really get dragged into this chaos? Because if we just hypothetically talked about how things would go, people start losing their jobs. I mean, what's the response to that? You sort of drill into, certainly in the UK, if someone lost their job, that for some people, they could only last for a month without it being like a really, really serious problem. And for some
Mhm.
people, it'd be even shorter than that. I mean, how do you respond if you're, those kinds of individuals? And this is a very real risk, right? 1 in 7 jobs supposedly is already gone. What's that number going to be at the end of 2025? And
Mm.
how do you respond if you go into work and it's not like, it isn't like the traditional losing of your job, because maybe you lose your job because you fall out with someone at your company, or your company's not doing very well. But broadly speaking, the theory goes that you can lift and shift those skills and apply them somewhere else. But
Yeah.
this isn't just for your company or your economy. This is a global thing.
Mhm.
If you're whatever it is, your job is now doable by an AI or whatever. y- that skill is suddenly no longer valued, and
Mhm.
and it might have been a skill that you've developed over your entire life. So
Yeah.
it isn't such that you can just go and get another job, right?
Yeah.
You're suddenly you're suddenly sort of thrown into the abyss with very little to run at. And that's terrifying. That is terrifying. So how do
Mhm.
if I guess if you're sitting here and you process all of this and you're starting to think, Christ, that might be me. I very much fall into that category. What would you do? What would your advice be, to prepare for that sort of potential chaos, turmoil that we're talking about, such that you can, you kind of see it through and you get through to that more optimistic utopia.
I don't think we can do that for everybody. In all honesty, like we could go and tell now, like our entire friend base, that this is coming, and like no one really kind of thinks it's really going to affect them. They're like, oh, they see it, don't see it that far away. Like you can tell people about it, but then then people maybe think, oh, hang on, I'm going to reskill, but like reskill into what? Like
Yeah.
that's not going to get taken away. I think for me and you, like we're just trying to stay on the cutting edge of like developments, what's happening, to see opportunities that might see us through for like a number of years to come, right? But like,
Yeah.
like we don't know what's going to happen and how that's going to affect us, not necessarily as well. So I think it's just a case of, I think we've got to tell the world this is coming and try and educate people.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? Because even governments like aren't ready. I mean, they're never ready for anything. But like, like how they're ignoring it. Like all these jobs are like getting lost. Like you don't hear, like in the election campaigns, with Trump and they had recently, there was no mention of people, like job losses to AI and like what they're going to do it. That was like no policy. There's no policies being mentioned about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, this is it, right? Like, we're just two blokes that are very much going on this journey along with everybody else. I mean, I certainly am. I'm apprehensive about the future, certainly the short term future. And as you say, well, our solution to this has been, well, let's try and embrace it. Let's try and understand it. Let's try and understand how we can leverage this technology, for ourselves and for the, I guess the greater good of the world. Again, trying to remain positive. But I guess the point here is that there will be that the world isn't prepared, and it probably will never be truly prepared. How can you be for something like this?
mm,
But the more that, I guess, as an individual, you can open your eyes to it and try and understand what's happening, the implications on you, and thinking about what you're going to do about it is, I guess, a good thing. But as with all of our conversations, Mark, we've weaved our way, into this big ethereal topic. What is the next bit of news that you're going to tell me?
Yeah. So next bit of news is self-driving cars. So, we already have cars that are, work with, full self-driving for Tesla. That's been around for a while. So, and we've got robo cab coming, robo van coming, which is just self-driving cars. Got even got a steering wheel or anything like that. They just drive themselves around. You can sit in it and do whatever you want to do. They're coming in the coming.
Yep.
Well, I think they might be coming this year in some states. But essentially, I think just the interesting stuff that Elon said about this was that so you may or may not already know, I don't know, but like people are already driving hundreds of miles with the latest Tesla software in the latest cars, hundreds of miles without touching the steering wheel. Like what I think they have to touch the steering wheel because it kicks, you have to touch it to prove you're still there, right? But like it's like they're literally not intervening with the driving, and they're driving hundreds of miles, and they're not actually like touching the wheel.
So just to
ahead.
clarify, we're talking specifically about Tesla.
Yep. Only Tesla can do this like this well. Well, there's Waymo, right? There's a company called Waymo, and they've worked differently. So they've mapped out like they can drive around specific cities in the US because they know the city. They've shown the map, like they kind of learn that way. The thing that the bet that Elon took, and people like questioned him about this, like for a number of years, but he took like the big bet that was, we're just going to do this through AI and vision. Like we're not going to have radar. Ultimately, we're not going to have like any other kind of tech that kind of helps us. It's just through like vision. And he said in the interview, so that means now our car can, it doesn't have, our Teslas can drive places they've never driven before, and they'll be fine. They'll know where to drive. He said we could take them to another planet and they'll be able to drive around. And because like they don't need to have that pre-knowledge of like what the roads look like. It figures it out like on the fly.
Wow.
So his statement was like, in the next 3 months, by Q2 this year, like our full self-driving cars will be better than like any human
At driving.
Right?
And
then
what does that statement mean? Does that mean
number of
to
accidents?
Say, is that view at an aggregate level? So if you like, there's two versions of the world: one where cars are driven by humans, one where cars are driven by AI, or Tesla. Let's say Tesla's auto pilot thing. And on aggregate, the Tesla version of the world would have less accidents. Or does it mean to say that in every single scenario that the Tesla autopilot, has a better outcome than a human? Or was he not specific?
Yeah. So, I see. So I guess there's been incidents as they've been building this stuff, right? Where people have had accidents that was because they weren't paying attention necessarily, and like the full self-driving drove into a barrier or something, and they died, right?
Yeah.
So that death probably wouldn't have happened if that person wasn't like trusting full self-driving when it wasn't really capable yet. Like he probably would be still alive, right? But the deal here is that I guess it's like, so he's saying, right, it's going to be better by Q2 this year. Then it's going to be, very quickly, it'll be 10 times safer. Then it'll be 100 times safer, to the point where it'll just never crash. It'll never make mistakes. So if we're saying it's 10 times safer, that's still not saying there's no crashes, right? This is the difficulty with like litigation and everything. It's like that person would not got injured or died if it wasn't for full self-driving. That's probably true, but 10 times less people are being killed or injured. And that's difficult, right, for people to like sometimes like accept. But like and I can understand it, right? But like ultimately, what we're getting to a point here is like where there's like no accidents, like there's no crashes, like and that is like, we're crossing a threshold. What he's saying is like we're crossing that threshold now where we're better than humans. and it's only going to get better from here to the point where there's no crashes.
It's incredibly, as you say, it's incredibly tricky moral sort of question, isn't it? And I think if you had if you were a decision maker at a macro scale, it's a dictatorship, and either we go for human drivers or Tesla autopilot drivers, and you had to make that decision based on the statistics, and you take emotion out of it, you would choose the safer of the two systems, right? Like that's common sense. But it's, as you say, decisions aren't made like that. It's actually done at a very micro level, individual level. If I asked you, would you trust an AI system to drive your car more than you trust yourself? And I think the vast majority of people would probably back themselves over an AI system. I think there's some interesting statistics about how people tend to overestimate their ability to drive versus their true ability to drive. But
I think that's true until people experience it now. I mean, I haven't experienced. I mean, I've got a Tesla and I've got I haven't got full self driving, but I've got autopilot, and my car I think is too old anyway to like be able to run the latest software. But I think there was a step change, and I can't think it was like version like from say 13.2 to 13.3. Suddenly it was like a massive step change, and I think people will back themselves more, I think, now until they experience it, because people who do have these cars that are sharing that information on YouTube or whatever are just blown away and can't believe it, like how good it is, and how good it avoids like animals and stuff, like a deer running out of the head like that, like a deer running out in the road. Like I wouldn't have stopped, but the car did.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what is it in that step change that's because I think a lot of people are blissfully unaware, right, of hazards. And like you say, it could be that there's a deer lurking in the woods next to the road, and you didn't even know it was there. Yet maybe the Tesla software does, and maybe you didn't even clock that there was someone speeding towards a T junction, but the Tesla did. So is it that Tesla is able to surface all of these risks that when you're sat in your car and you're attempting to sort of foresee all of these things, there are just things that it's showing you that you didn't see? Is that what the step change is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they've been working to, right, over time. So now it's just got to the point where it's even like it's better. It's better than a human doing it. But yeah, absolutely, like it's studying. It's literally studying all of the hazards around, and then it's quicker to react to anything that happens that's like out of the normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's very believable, isn't it? You've got, I guess Tesla has 360-degree vision at all times. It's, as you say, there's no thinking time, or the thinking time is drastically shorter than for a human. So you can perceive how the car is, it's better enabled to drive than a human, because we have flaws. And it's humans concentrating on other things whilst they're driving. But I guess the trust then is in the computer. It's in the bit that makes the decisions for you. So it's got all this information.
AI.
It's able to, yeah, exactly. It's able to make these decisions, in a heartbeat. But so the tricky bit is trusting the AI that is saying, I have seen this risk, or I see this entity, and therefore I will do this or that. And that's tricky, right? Because we're never ever, the vast majority of us are never ever going to truly understand how that computer is making decisions, how that AI is making decisions.
I mean, a lot of it's down to like the massive amounts of like real world data they've got, right? So Tesla's like best selling car now. Like Tesla is the best car. It's got millions of cars on the road, all with cameras on, and it's just picking up that. So it's understanding the real physical world better and better every single day, because it's got a huge amount of data. And this is where like it's going to help like humanoids and things like that as well, because they're using this AI in cars and in humanoids. It's the same AI to understand the physical world. Like these humanoids are going to be so much better because they've got so much data on the real world. So that is like essentially it's just like the sheer amount of data they're training it on. It's seen
Yep.
it's seen so many things so many times that
Yeah.
it understands. Like you would, right? If you see a car at a crossroads or whatever are coming at a certain speed and you've seen it like hundreds of thousands of times, you know that one, that this time that car's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you just know. It's like, so like as the AI, you know that, and you can react like accordingly. So
It's amazing, isn't it?
millions of times.
I don't want to. I know we're quite deep into this news section, but there is a interesting bit from the NVIDIA side that links so cleanly to this. It's so interesting, but we'll save it.
Same with the NVIDIA video. We're doing a separate video on that next, I think. And
Yeah.
straight up after this on the channel. All right, shall I move on to the next thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
So he's talking about AI's rapid progress and how we've already exhausted every piece of written content and video content that we've got, that like we've fed all of humanity's knowledge into these AI models already. Like every book ever written, every video that's useful. We said we don't need like 1 million cat videos, they're all the same, like, but we've got like what we need, to the point where now like we have this, like we have to train them on what's called synthetic data, which is data created by AIs, right? So AI will soon be able to like handle any cognitive task, again, like questioning again, like that, what's the future purpose of like humans? But I was telling you the other day about the data center they built, right? And I couldn't remember the name of it. I was saying, I think it's like Hercules or something. It's like Colossus, which I think is an awesome name, right?
So fitting.
And so it's like the world's largest AI supercomputer, right? So how many NVIDIA H100 GPUs do you think it has?
Okay. And when we're talking about an NVIDIA H100 GPU, how does that compare to what you might find in a gaming computer in your bedroom? How powerful is that?
Oh, mate, you'd ask me to compare? Like, I don't know. Like there's new ones coming out now, which are H200s, but the H100s were for a while have been like the best AI GPUs from.
I'm gonna pluck a number out of thin air and say 50,000.
Good guess. 100,000 GPUs, and they also plan to add. So that's already bigger than any other AI supercomputer out there. But bigger than OpenAI's, bigger than Google's, everything. And
this is Musk's. This is his
xAI. Yeah,
xAI. Okay.
And they've got plans now. And I told you the other day, like they managed to secure like loads of like the new GPUs, like ahead of anybody else. He's like just got NVIDIA to like give him to, I don't know how he structured that deal, but like he's beating everybody else to like the new stuff as well. And so they're going to add 50,000 H200 chips to the 100 H100 chips, but the H200s are faster. So effectively, it's going to be doubling the capacity of that data center by adding another 50,000 H200s. This is what's going to be running.
Where is this thing?
Humanoids, the AI. This is in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't imagine what the electricity bill is going to be.
Man, yeah. But yeah, so that's I mean that's like that kind of news really. Because you're saying like how huge it's just exponential, like how much things are going to improve and continue to improve in terms of AI.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the key things, right? Like we're talking about all these applications. I mean, when you're talking about the humanoids, one of the thoughts that comes out of that is, where on earth, how on earth are we going to build these things? Where's all the materials coming from? I thought these were precious, and some of the things that go into these chips were, it's finite resources. It is finite. We only have one planet. How on earth are we going to build these things? And then, apart from the physical side, you've got all the compute. People talk about compute and these data centers, and that is an integral part of unlocking this next generation of technology. And And this is the answer, right? Like Musk is one of many, I suppose, that are really doubling down on setting up this infrastructure. I mean, I'd
Mhm.
love to see this place. I bet it's mammoth. I mean, a plucked of 50,000 GPUs. It's actually 100,000, soon to be 150,000. I mean,
Mhm.
that must be, well, a Colossus thing. Like that's going to be one of the most impressive, human structures ever built. I mean, it must be insane. How
Mhm.
are they even building this thing? I mean, there must
Yeah.
be thousands of people, or
Yeah.
are they using robots? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I the yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just insane. And again, they're gonna have to train it on synthetic data, where they kind of grade themselves like on how good like the data is and how usable it is.
Mm,
Um, but they're already like AI models like are outperforming humans in a lot of tests. So like diagnosing X-rays, like passing medical
mhm,
exams. This is something you mentioned. And I did
mhm,
actually see. I'm just looking for it now. Um, all like fantastic bit of news. You don't really hear that often. Like you never hear good news, do you? But like in
mm.
Germany, they've done the largest real-world study on AI-enabled breast cancer screenings, and they found
Yep.
a 17.6 improvement in detection rates, and
17.6%.
improvement in detection rates, yeah, and
Yep.
over 460,000 women who were screened with the assistance AI, and the technology reduced reading times by 43%, so from 30
Wow.
seconds to 16 seconds per case, while
Wow.
bolstering accuracy and biopsy recommendations. So 17.6% improvement in detection rates
Wow.
in AI, and that's just like now. Like we know it's going to get better, right? But
I mean, that's impressive. I mean, I don't know what that number, how that performance metric translates into, our ability to truly identify all cases of breast cancer and at what point in its development and all of those things. But that's a humongously impressive statistic. I mean,
mhm,
I don't know how many people suffer, are diagnosed with breast cancer, but if we're able to identify nearly 20% more of those people such that we're able to give them treatment, I mean,
earlier, yeah,
that's fantastic news. That's human lives saved, and
yeah,
and all the, obviously all the pain and the turmoil that comes with it.
mhm,
I mean, yeah, it's like you say, the good news side is certainly scarce, certainly in terms of how I receive my news. So that's amazing to hear.
yeah. Just thinking about the other thing though that he mentioned, like the population is aging like across the world, so people just aren't having children. Like like most countries in the world, they're not replacing the number of people. So there is this financial problem that's coming that humanoid robots and things and AI can help fill the gap for,
Yep. Yep.
which I think was kind of been like quite an interesting kind of take as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is another topic that we've certainly discussed in the past, and one that will probably come up again and again because it's so sort of integral to how human society functions, right? And I certainly am not an expert on finance or economics or anything like
Mhm,
that, but it would be amazing to understand, you know, what this means, because as you say, there's certainly a deficit in certain areas of the world in terms of population, working population. What does the introduction of AI and humanoids into our society mean for that?
mhm,
Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? And it might be that it's a similar conclusion to what we had before. There's going to be a chaotic transition period, but ultimately, hopefully a positive thing. And maybe that's something else that we can chat about another day. But yeah, a really interesting topic.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I go for the last topic, and then we'll wrap it
Yeah.
up. And it's funny that I've kind of put them in priority order, which I thought were the most amazing. And to say that the last topic, I mean, he spoke about other things, right? Like things like I'm not going to mention too much about, but like Starlink, and now
Mhm.
Starlink helps like is really revolutionizing stuff for people in the world without internet. Like they've got ideas, they want to create a business, they couldn't start a business, but now they can sell their stuff online because they've got Starlink and things like that.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah. It's
um,
amazing.
but last thing, and this is like the least interesting thing, and that's amazing to say, is like Mars colonization. Like, how can you? That's like the least interesting thing of all the things he spoke about. But yeah, he was just talking about like how in over the next 2 years they expect to like to start sending unmanned ships to Mars, which I feel like they've been talking about for a long time. But yeah, through their like Starship, I think part of it was the problem actually getting there, right? Now I think this Starship, that that rocket that they created, they can get there. It's just like now going to start like unmanned crews and everything. So, but he talked again like quite seriously. And again, it's almost hard, isn't it, to believe? But like colonizing the planet, and how he imagined like just a continuous stream of like Starlinks, starships, like traveling to Mars and back. With like people in them.
It's it feels like there's so much going on our planet that it's hard to even think about what space and anything outside of our planet, which is again a hugely interesting topic. And you talk about the capability of AI, and if you dive into the space sort of sector, obviously one of the most challenging things is the cost and the environmental impact of sending up rockets, right? It's not a cheap industry, and there's the feasibility and our capability to actually get to other planets, and we've seen that in history. We've been able to send rovers to Mars, and that's been huge, like for humanity. That's a really impressive feat. But to actually be able to go and land a rocket on Mars, and then you couple that with, suddenly you're going to have this army of artificial intelligence who supposedly are going to be more capable than humans. Suddenly you put them on the case, and you can start to imagine how we might be able to go even further. How do we get there more cheaply, I don't know, more safely, and you kind of just channel your thought track into that space, and suddenly, as you say, going to another planet, colonizing another planet, it suddenly doesn't seem so bonkers as a concept.
No.
I mean, how mental is that? There's so much going on. This technological advancement is so impressive that suddenly we're prepared to sit by and accept that colonizing Mars now is, suddenly within our gift. Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, he was literally talking about like how a goal is that, like, if we were to sever like contact with Earth, like something happens on Earth, which means like Earth no longer exists, like a meteorite or whatever, that Mars will be able to sustain itself. It's like he says, one thing like being able to ship things and people from Earth and like start to colonize Mars, but it needs to be self-sustaining as well. And he doesn't have small goals, this guy, does he? Like,
yeah, we started off the session saying he's a visionary, and we'll end the session saying he's a visionary as well. Yeah. Wow. What ream of news that was. Wow.
Just that, like, we've talked about it for an hour. He talked about it for half an hour, so like we've doubled the time. But like, it's just insane. Like, I mean, I didn't know they had stuff working in monkeys like already, like with Neuralink and stuff like that, like vision, like giving people sight and stuff. So
yeah, it's as you say, it's tricky. For us, we're trying to stay as up to date with all this advancement, and we're trying to stay at the cutting edge. But for most people, it's just they don't know that this stuff is happening. It's just, I mean, that in itself is a crazy concept. All this, the most impressive things, as I say, in humanity, it seems, most of it's just under the covers right now. People don't know it's happening. It's unreal. It really is. Right, I think I need to go and have a lie down.
I think we should wrap it up, Jack.
Yeah.
That has been, we're like 59 minutes in, so we'll keep it under the hour if we can, and we'll record another video on the NVIDIA keynote, and take that from there. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, it was great. Great chatting to you, Mark.
And catch you in the next video.
See you guys.